Good morning, everyone. I'm Deborah Rose with Realty One Group in Payson, Arizona. Welcome to the talk show today. The featured guest is actually myself. The roles are reversed, and I have the great privilege and honor to introduce you all to Charlie Seraphin, who is a local Payson resident, has written this fantastic book called One Stupid Mistake. I'm going to have Charlie on the show very soon, but the roles will be reversed and I'll be able to interview you. But today, the goal is to interview me. But for those of you that want to get to know Charlie a little bit more, I'll just give you a quick overview. You've been in the professional sports business for many years.
Yeah.
The Hunt family, NFL. Do you want to tell people just a minute or two
I
about
worked
yourself?
in broadcasting for a long time. I worked as a radio broadcaster. I ran news organizations. I worked for CBS for 10 years. I ran a big news talk radio station in Dallas, Texas, and was involved in the Branch Davidian Waco situation. I went into professional sports. I worked in Major League Baseball for 10 years. I worked for the Hunt family that owns the NFL Kansas City Chiefs and 3 Major League Soccer teams. I ran an NBA Development League basketball team in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I have trained hummingbirds to land on my finger. I haven't done it here in Payson yet, and I'm very much looking forward to getting to know you and getting your audience to get to know you much better than when you sit in this seat and get to ask the questions.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to learn a lot from this man. I know you're going to teach me some things that I can apply in the future. So I want to, first off, thank you for being here. I want the audience to know if you like, share, you can comment, you can ask questions. We'll get to those questions in just a little bit, but I'm going to turn the show over to our wonderful host, Charlie Seraphin.
Thank you. Deborah, we're going to do a basic who, what, why, when, and where. Okay, so we're going to start with who. So who are you? Your name is Deborah Rose. Let's start with your name. Okay. There aren't a lot of people who have the last name Rose. Tell me about your surname.
Oh, well, I believe our surname is from Germany. I think it's English. My family is a diversity of nationalities. I used to call myself a mutt until I took a DNA test, and I found out I'm 66% English. My grandmother from England was actually born into the blue blood family. We have relatives living in Kassel somewhere over there. I've never been there, but whatever. I'm 18% German. I'm 20-something% French, and I'm 1% Slavic. So there you have it.
Okay. And where did you grow up? Where were you born?
Rochester, Michigan,
Okay.
near Detroit, 8 miles from Detroit. My parents worked for the motor companies. My dad worked for the Sterling Heights plant where Chrysler Dodge was, and my mom was a mechanic for General Motors. So we grew up in the thrust of the Motor City, and our annual vacations were actually to the Detroit Auto Show. So I love cars. Oh, I love cars.
Okay, and how'd you get to Payson? When did you come here?
Well, 2001 from Sedona. I moved out. I left Detroit. I thought I was going to San Diego, and I stopped in Las Vegas and kind of got hung up there and started a business and was in radio. I was a disc jockey for a while too, like you, and then I moved to Sedona. So I moved here in 2001 from Sedona, Arizona.
Okay. And what is it about Payson that makes it the place that you've settled and made it your life?
Well, Payson is a wonderful place. I have traveled quite a bit through the United States. There's only 2 states I haven't been to, Alaska and Hawaii. And when we lived in Sedona, come through Payson to get to property in Young. And my family was in the Pleasant Valley Wars. My 2 great uncles were both killed early on, Al and Ed Rose. And Payson seemed to be idyllic in terms of the national forest. I love mountains, I love fresh air, and I love small towns. And still to this day, I believe with my whole heart that this is the friendliest town in the nation. So it just seemed a great place to raise my daughter Shiloh Rose, and I've never regretted that decision.
Okay. So you're an intelligent, successful businesswoman. Why in the world would you want to run for the Payson Town Council?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I keep thinking I'm part crazy, actually. I think we can do better. I think we can raise the bar in the political arena. I am not a politician. I'm an unpolitician, but I think I can bring some small business savvy and skill set to an entity that desperately needs to put in measures of accountability, transparency, put teeth into some things, and complete some visions. I have heard a lot and seen very little. So I like to execute dreams. I'm very good at it. I'm a conductor type personality by nature, and I can see the whole picture, but you got to get all the, it's kind of like an orchestra, Charlie, where you see all these musicians and all these different instruments, and I'm looking at the government in the same way going, there's so many people that are reading their own, have their own individual music page, and they don't realize that we're supposed to be on the same song. So everyone's kind of blowing their own horn, tooting their own flute, and whatever. And the spirit is not necessarily one of collaboration. I think we're used to doing things the way we've always done them, and I think we need to change the way that we're doing things to improve things for the good people of Payson, because I really do care about this town. I care about its people, and I just think we can do a better job.
Some of the other folks who are running for town council suggest that we just need to get along. That's really what it's all about. We need to get along better. What do you say to that?
Well, okay, so shame-based communication is prevalent, not only in the society, but it's also prevalent here in a small town. And the first part of the problem is you've got to let, it's not you got to let people, here's my analysis. We should check our emotions at the door, because what I see is we're letting our emotions vote. And that's a very dangerous thing, because our feelings, they come and go. They change rapidly. Most of our emotional feelings are based, unfortunately, in childhood behaviors. So a lot of times when we get upset or we don't like something, we let our anger, our fear, our sadness kind of take the reins, and we run with it. And then we end up saying and doing things that we deeply regret. And one of the problems in social media that I see, and this is not an affront to anyone, but we don't have to be as brave as sitting face to face with somebody and having a conversation and asking deep questions and asking questions that are birthed sincerely from a state of curiosity, not entrapment. There's a big difference. When you ask a question out of curiosity, you're actually opening things to having discussions, finding out things about situations or people that you might not have known. Instead, we do these entrapment questions where we ask questions to entrap people, so then we can therefore flog them or shame them or ridicule them. Listen, just because you have an opinion of somebody doesn't mean you know the truth. And my philosophy is, if you haven't sat down and talked to me or asked me a question or had these kind of conversations, then the information is second, third, fourth hand. And there is the danger of it becoming a rumor or just an opinion that, unfortunately, there's 4 great addictions in psychology with the human psyche, and I'm just going to cover them, one right now, and that is the need to know. We have an addiction to the need to know. So social media kind of fills that addiction, but it's it's very shallow. Everything seems to be very shallow. Like, we're not willing to go deep, because if we ask hard questions, then we have to deal with the hard answers. And most people aren't either equipped to handle them, or they are so tied up in knots in their own psyche that they take that information and they just use it to hurt other people. So that statement is loaded with problems, because you have to be the one willing to put your ego down, to remain humble, because the opposite of humiliating someone is to actually be humble and think, well, I may actually get to know something about this person that I don't know. And why wouldn't I want to deepen the relationship instead of assuming that I know about the situation? My big philosophy in life is, if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in trouble.
We need to get to a different room, right?
I want to go into a room where people have intelligence that will help me better my life and make better decisions. It's always about raising the bar with me, raising the bar, raising the bar, raising the bar. So if I want to learn about radio, I come to someone like you, 30 years in radio. If I want to learn about building a website, I go to Cameron Davis. By the way, I forgot to introduce Cameron with Razor Thin Media. He's an expert in building websites. I go to the people that know more than me, and I'm like, let's do this. I'm excited to learn. I'm afraid people aren't open to learning anymore. I think they're more comfortable in their own assumptions and accusations. And if we're going to get past that, then we're going to have to eat. My favorite pie in the whole world is humble pie. You got to eat a lot of humble pie.
Let's get back to a specific example. Give me an example of a question that should be asked, how it should be asked, and what an appropriate response to that question is within the context of Payson Town government.
Yeah. Okay, just one example, because it's the only time I've ever done anything like this. I did some research on my own website, and I found an error, a significant error, and I started digging around, doing some research, pulling data, and I tried to go to the leadership for answers to the question, and they couldn't give it to me. So I wrote an article, and the rage that came at me was uncalled for, because, instead of asking deeper questions like, well, what have you uncovered, Deborah? Maybe we should look at this together. Maybe we can learn from our mistakes. Maybe we could make things better. I got nothing but shame. So, what
was the website? What are the and what was the mistake?
Well, the website was PaysonRimCountry.com, which is our tourism website that my website was tied to. Okay. Now, I run analytics off the back end of my website, because I'm monitoring things. I'm looking for, there's all kinds of problems that can happen to websites. You can get toxic links. You can get what's called toxic referrals. You can have these warnings on your site from the back end from Google, and if you're not paying attention to the data underneath the website, it really harms you. Now, what's the reason for having a website in business? Well, to attract a customer base, to dispense information about you. In our case of tourism, we want people to come and visit Payson. We want to find all the great things that there are to do. There's a lot of great things. So if there's a problem with that website, would we not want to fix it?
So you found a problem.
Yeah. And
you took it to the appropriate place. We made it public and said, hey, we have a problem here. And then what happened?
Nothing. Nothing. And so nothing to me is down here. Why would we not care about taking care of a website we've invested a lot of money in? A lot of money. I have the data. I have loads of data. And if you really look at the data and see what's happened to that website, it's heartbreaking. Now, I'm not trying to find fault with anyone in particular. I'm just trying to bring awareness. So we have a problem with this website and we need to fix it. But
It's not getting
I don't
fixed.
know. It's
Okay,
just not
so
getting fixed.
what about a more less technical type of question? What about every community, probably in the world, not just in America, but every community has potholes and road issues?
Yeah.
Okay. Many of them in Payson are state issues because it's ADOT and has nothing to do with Payson. But there are problems with streets and that sort of thing. How would you grade the town in its response to basic everyday issues that affect every resident and taxpayer in Payson?
Well, I'm really concerned about the budget. I mean, looking at money, I'm a trained researcher by nature. I'm a grant writer, a certified grant writer. And I learned early on that if you don't sweat during the planning stages, you will bleed during the implementation. The hardest thing in the world to do is to think effectively. To think. That's where the hard work starts. So I think in government, there is a tendency to overspend. In general, I think most people would agree on a national level we do it, as a nation we've done it, as states we have done it. And unlike a small business like me, I'm a small business owner, so if I see an economy that's making drastic changes like it is right now, I have to address my budgets. I have to watch my P&Ls. I have to gauge what I can spend based on what I estimate coming into the business, right? I have to stay fluid. I have to make cuts when needed. I have to reduce my salary. In what I have seen in government, just the opposite happens. They just keep spending. So I think the problem, part of the problem is everyone's ignorant to the budget. I think we need to educate ourselves on the money. We have to gauge what are the highest priorities to the community. And we need to ask them if people are getting their cars damaged because we have too many potholes. We got to figure out a way to redirect funds to fix the problem for the good of the whole. And that is the key. I think I believe the good people of Payson deserve to have certain amenities and certain things taken care of. But what I see happening is an extreme passion about giving salaries and raises in seasons that we have no business giving raises in salaries to leadership roles. I'm not talking about the working class. We've got issues with the police department and the firefighters that have worked for this community and their retirement accounts where they're saying that there's no money. So we have to look at those things, and we have to sacrifice, many have to sacrifice for the good of the whole. And I think we have to take that kind of attitude into government, saying, hey, how can we help more people by everyone giving a little? Because if everyone gives a little, all of a sudden you have a lot.
How do you do that as a member of the council when we really have a strong town manager structure?
Yeah,
the town is really run by the town manager and the department heads, and there's a huge separation between what happens on the council and what happens in the elements of the town that actually touch people.
Yeah, that's a good there's other models that we need to look into, I believe. I think the town manager role is, they're the head and they're responsible for all the department heads, and then underneath that, the line goes down to the mayor and then to the council members. So the town manager holds a very powerful position in this town. So if we're not looking at other models of changing that, which we'd have to probably or turn into a city, but we could apply a different model to disperse the authority, I guess. Would you call it an authority or the power that be, and equalize it? That one person being head of so many people is problematic. Who's holding the town manager accountable? And can you? So all these questions lead to other questions, and they're just questions. So and then I look at the policy manual, and I look at the the archetypal structure involved, and you go, wait a minute, there's no accountability measures here. There's no one watching this person or that person, and we've got to. I feel that there's probably a better way. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say what that way is, but I think it would behoove us to look at different models and see if that would be better for the town of Payson and the way that things are run. Because if one person's at the head, that makes it problematic, because based on their influences and what they're doing and their level of expertise, are they really doing it for the benefit of the whole, or are there special interests behind that type of leadership? And that does concern me, because one person left to their own with all the power is a very dangerous model. That's why in our federal government we have checks and balances. We have the legislative branch, we have the judicial branch, and they're all supposed to keep each other in check. We have nothing in this town that does that. And I know that we're getting ready to hire. We haven't had a town manager. We've had an intern. But we need to get somebody in that role that has a lot of experience and is free from any kind of former corruption in their role as a town manager. I think we have to look really, really closely at that, and we have to make really good decisions about who we're putting in as head of our town.
So this is one of the real simple, basic questions. When you're looking for people in town government, should you hire people in the town,
No.
or should you look outside the town?
Well, okay, to be fair, if someone, you have to vet people. I run all kinds of checklists on people if I'm going to hire them, and I'm just a little tiny business. I think we have to vet people. We have to ask, we have to put it out and say, we have a job description. This is what's expected. This is how much experience we expect you to have. And this is why. Small governments are very susceptible to corruption because we have limited resources, we have fewer employees, and usually we don't apply big level business thinking to small time government thinking, right? So I think there's a that's a good question.
What's wrong? What's wrong? This guy's my neighbor, or this guy's my brother-in-law.
I think
he's a really good guy, and so why shouldn't we put him in this position and train him in that position?
Well, what I've seen in our government is we just give the job to someone we know. That's wrong. It's especially wrong if it's your family member, because the government is also bound by a code of ethics that they are not to personally profit from their position in government, but it seems to me they do all the time. Like, I would never think of going in, and if I were to win a seat in council, to try to get a family member into a job. That's just wrong. You know, in a court of law, you would have to recuse yourself from disassociating with something that could be deemed illegal or even questionable, right? And I think we've done far too much family member, friend, let's just get them in the role. We need to start raising the bar. We can do better. Advertise for the job needed. Have very strict and very clear guidelines on who we're looking for. And then we hire according to those objectives and those goals and those needs for the community. And we have to hire smartly. We can't make mistakes in these areas because it can cost our government dearly. And the good people of Payson, it costs us dearly. Because too many mistakes, if you don't have enough experience, if you're not hired for the job skills that you're very good at, proven, what's going to happen? There's going to be too many mistakes. The collateral damage of too many mistakes equals tremendous losses. It means money. And I do take issue with our salaries in this town. It's unbelievable. I mean, some of our leaders are getting paid double what the national norm is. Why? We need money for streets. We need money to fix the swimming pool. We need money to take care of our own community. The good of the whole, again, I keep focusing on the good of the whole, not just a few. If just a few are benefiting from everything, something is really wrong, and I can promise you there's corruption. Promise you it's there.
You talked earlier about budgets, in municipal budget
Yeah.
for the town, but in another sense, in political budgets, if you were to judge by yard signs or paid advertising that we're seeing, you're getting outspent by a lot. There's a lot of money being spent in the community by people who are seeking the same council seat that you're seeking.
Yeah.
What is that?
Well,
What's going on?
I think if you apply common sense to that question, you'll get your answer. Here's the one thing I know about people. People are really smart, and I think people are tired of getting their intelligence intercepted by those that think that people aren't smart enough to figure things out on their own. So, yeah, definitely outspended. When you can afford 3 or 4 signs at every corner, my God. I'll tell you, I spent, for 100 signs and a few magnets, I spent $1,400. That's a lot of money. So my signs cost $1,200. In full transparency, because I've got nothing to hide, 100 signs cost me $1,200. I'm not buying any more signs. But it shows you, if you do the math and you see the big banners and you go, dang, we need to be looking at those financial reports of those that are getting a lot of money, obviously, to spend for those signs, and then finding out who's donating to them to see if there's an agenda behind that. Maybe there is, maybe it's not, but at least we should be asking questions, right? Because in the political arena, usually the person with the most money wins. Would you not agree? Would you not agree?
Is it right?
I don't know. I mean, if someone wants to donate, $6,000 to me, that's wonderful. I'm not going to judge someone for having sponsors. I mean, that's your legal right as running for council, but it just raises questions that
if you have a sponsor,
where's the money coming from?
Right.
That's the question that enters my mind.
Okay, if you have a sponsor, the sponsor expects some kind of quid pro quo. That's
Could
the
be.
general rule.
Could be, especially if it's big money.
Big money.
I have a website, deborahforpayson.com, and on it I have a donate button, and it's been so exciting. I got a $100 donation, a $50 donation on it, and a $75 donation. I'm just so excited, that people would care enough to invest in me, having a little bit of money. But you know what? What if you want to pay for ads in the newspaper? What if you want to spend more money? Well, if the money's not there, guess what? I can't spend it. And I am certainly not going to go in debt running for town council. I think the people that need to get voted in, number one, you don't vote emotionally. I think people have to really activate their common sense. You have to really activate your open, curious nature and ask non-defensive questions like, who is this person? What do they really stand for? I think it would be really a great idea for more small business owners to kind of be involved in government, because you can bring a lot of that sensible, practical, frugal way of living your life into that arena. I think that's valuable. So to answer your question, it just raises questions, valuable questions.
What's the most important reason that you would like people to vote for you as opposed to any of the other candidates running for the town council?
Well, one thing I do know, I do have a lot of integrity. I have a good name. I care deeply about people. My life motto is, if God puts someone in front of me or something in front of me, always make sure I leave it better than when it first arrived. I work really hard at that. My goal is never to destroy somebody, never to make them feel lower than me. I want to build people up. I want to build people up. I'm a woman, and I have very good relationships with a lot of businesswomen in this community because I'm not vindictive. I want to help them succeed. I want to help people succeed. I want to raise the bar, and I want to do a better job than the average person. And I invest a lot in my education, and then I supplement it with surrounding myself with people who can bring a lot to the table in their area of expertise. For me, I think the government and as small business owners, we need to ask for more help. We're afraid for people to see our mistakes. And that's why I think there's a lot of defensiveness in this government, by the way. I think we've made a lot of mistakes. But instead of bringing that out into the light and dealing with it, we try to cover it up and hide it. And the people that ask real good questions, we shame. So good people leave. It's just like the old adage with school. You get one rotten kid in a class, ruining it for and what do the public schools do? They punish the whole class.
Well, Deborah Rose, you've been a wonderful guest on your own program. Way to go. And thank you so much.
I did? Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. No, I'm really passionate about, we can go over because it's my show, right, Cameron? Just a couple more minutes. We have to get people in our government that really have the best interest of the people at heart. And there are people running that are like that. And there are people that aren't. Look at their track record. Look at how they vote. Look at what they say and do. Look at if their family has positions within our government. Look at their record. Don't be afraid to research and look. It's okay. Even if someone shames you or makes you feel bad because you're asking us a good question, then be brave. Keep asking. But we've got to be brave and keep slugging through and getting to a level where we're going to see the light of day and we're going to go, okay, in my humble opinion, I like making mistakes. I'm never afraid to make them. You know why? I learn from them. So the next time I do something, I'm more intelligent about it. Doesn't mean I'm not going to make another mistake. I will make mistakes. The first thing that I say in the morning, my staff knows, is just please forgive me, God. I'm gonna make all these mistakes. I'm gonna inadvertently maybe hurt someone's feelings. I don't mean to, but my motive is not to hurt people. My motive is to dig deeper, look at things on a more holographic realm, and see if we can make this better by adding a few more pieces to the puzzle. And we do need to deal with stuff that's bad. We do need to rip the Band-Aid off and go, this is infected. We need to clean this up. And we better do it together, because everyone doing a little bit creates a lot. And that would be my impetus for running, is to just start using people. I think we need an oversight committee. That would be one of the first things that I would really focus on. We need an oversight committee. We need to create rules for social media and what we say against our own government, especially people that are already on the council, slandering their leadership. That should not be tolerated. We are better than that. We need to raise the bar and knock off all the dirty line, whatever that stuff is. We just need to say, you know what, we're going to stop that today. And we are going to treat other people with respect, because we're human beings and we can raise the bar. We just gotta get people in there that are willing to raise the bar. And I believe I'm one of those people, by the way. I would really like your vote. If you would please consider voting for me, I would be very grateful. And thank you for giving me the opportunity.
What's your website?
My website is deborahforpayson.com. I also have a Facebook political page. It's Deborah for Payson on Facebook. And I'm going to try to launch some virtual video conversations with people, since we're in the throes of the COVID virus. We can't really go out and do a whole lot in front of people, but I am going to give people the opportunity per invitation to be included on conversations where they can ask me questions directly. I really encourage that. Ask me hard questions. I'm willing to give you answers, and they'll be honest. So If you don't want if you don't want an honest answer, then please don't ask me. But also, I encourage people, how about we all stop spreading rumors and go, did you get that right from that person's mouth? Or is this just hearsay? Let's start nipping these cruel conversations in the bud and get to the high order of working on behalf of the good people of Payson.
Sounds like a plan.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.
Parting shot.